Hello, welcome back to another week of Game Chat. This week we're here talking about Ultimate General Civil War. It's a PC strategy game that came out in 2016 from a Ukrainian developer. Pretty memorable or recognisable member of that team actually is a guy who's been making Total War mods for years. I think the first game he started modding was Medieval. Not sure about that, but Dart Mod is I think was lead dev on the team after he just decided screw modding Total War, I'll just go ahead and make my own game. And it turned out pretty well. The first one they made was Ultimate General Gettysburg, which was just entirely focused around the Battle of Gettysburg, but on this one they've extended it to the entire Civil War in America. So it's a real-time strategy game. You build and command your forces, somewhat Total War-ish. There's no grand campaign map to speak of. It's, you just click on battles. In every campaign there's minor battles and then major battles, decisive battles as well. So something like the Battle of Gettysburg will be a decisive battle, whereas there will be skirmishes and stuff around that as well. And from winning battles and playing battles you get stuff, you get money, and there's money to buy weapons and recruits for your armies. And then you also get something called I can't remember actually what it's specifically called. I think it's called Reputation. Basically you gain reputation with the American Senate, and with that reputation you can get extra funding for your armies, extra resources, extra weapons, stuff like that. So that's basically an entirety of the campaign map, so to speak of. And then the actual battles themselves, it's line infantry battle. So it's rather Napoleon-esque, or Total War Empire and Napoleon-esque battles. You have your cannons, your line infantry, your cavalry, saber cavalry, skirmishing cavalry, that kind of stuff. Battles can last quite long. The skirmishes are usually 20 minutes, half an hour battles, but the decisive battles, oh my god. I can't remember exactly which battle it was, but I remember some of these decisive battles last over days, like their real life counterparts. But I remember one of the battles, I don't remember exactly which one it was, but I spent, I think, 5 or 6 hours on the one battle over 2 days. Luckily enough it saves in between days, like the battle is split into days, but I think I spent about 6 hours on it over 2 days. It was an incredibly long battle, and it's something I quite like. It's something that the base Total War games have always missed for me, is just incredibly long slog battles, like slogfest battles. Alright, so speaking of battles, we'll talk about kind of terrain and the terrain effects while we're at it. Terrain can range from, hilly countryside, forests, river crossings, towns, cities, anything like that. And the different terrains actually affect how your troops perform. So for example, if you're on high ground and you're being charged by an enemy force, you will get accuracy bonuses, damage bonuses, whereas the enemy will receive penalties to their accuracy, damage, speed, movement, stuff like that. Same thing if you're hiding in a forest, you will take less damage from enemy volleys, because like in real life, trees will catch most of the incoming rounds. Stuff like rivers, just don't go near a river. You will get massacred. The water will turn red with the blood of your troops. It's never what you want. You want to be on the defense, the other side of the river. Alright, so while we're talking about terrain mechanics and stuff like that, we'll move into the actual battle mechanics. So when you're deploying your troops, you deploy them, this kind of plays into the graphics of the game. You deploy them, you draw them out into lines, and on the map itself it appears as just a small block of maybe 100 actual models. Unlike Total War, where it shows individual troops, it just shows like a block of 100 models, which in terms of the game actually equates to, it could be a full division of 2,500 soldiers. So you have these blocks of, however many men are in your unit. It could be as little as 500, it could be as much as, I think the max you can get up to is 3,000 men per unit. So, and you can have up to 35 units, I think, in a corps, split into different divisions. And So you can deploy, depending on the battle, you can deploy maybe 1 corps, maybe 2 corps, maybe 3 corps. So you could have as many, I think the most I ever had in one battle, I had 75,000 friendly troops against something like 60,000. But it's not a very graphically intensive game at the same time. I'm getting off track. Mechanics, please. So when you draw your lines up, you're showing the range of your musket or your rifle, whatever your men are equipped with. And there's different options, like you have fire at will option, you have the retreat options, you have a charge option, fixed bayonet and charge option. But when enemy troops come into that semicircular arc of fire, your troops unload. And at that point, you're in a line. If for those of you who don't know what a line battle is, it's basically 2 lines of troops facing off against each other, shooting at each other, reloading their muskets for 30 seconds, shooting at each other. And in retrospect, looking back at it, it's a bit of a stupid way to conduct battle, but at the time it was just what was done. I did hear a funny story of an English observer who went to the American Civil War and was shocked and horrified by how the Americans were conducting their war. See, in Europe at the time, you would line up your troops against each other, you'd take 1 volley, you'd fix bayonets and charge immediately after the first volley. But in America, they were just standing there shooting at each other for hours on end. And it's just a funny little anecdote I heard about that English observer. He was amazed at how the Americans were conducting their war. It was unheard of to Europeans at the time. But yeah, that's basically what line battles are. You just stand and shoot at each other. But you receive bonuses if you can get troops around to the side or to the back and shoot into the rear flank of the enemy. It does massive... That's a thing. There's a morale in the game, similar to Total War. So rear shots, flank shots all deal extra damage, but also deal massive damage to morale. I mean, as it would. You get, you're fighting someone in front of you, next thing you're getting shot in the back. That's going to mess with you a little bit. There's a couple of other things that affect morale as well, such as having friendly troops to your flanks will increase morale. It'll make your men feel safer, as it were. The veterancy of your troops is also a pretty important factor to it. There's a couple of ways of increasing units' veterancy, or keeping its veterancy as well. Just by using it in battles and its kills in battles, increases its veterancy, gives it skill points, and you can kind of specialize different brigades to different roles. So you can have brigades that are extremely good marksmen but slow reloaders, not so accurate but incredibly fast reloaders, kind of all-round divisions, as well as divisions based solely on charging and melee with the enemy. Also, losses taken can be restored through 2 options. You can restore them with raw recruits, which doesn't cost any money but will lower the overall veterancy of your unit, which can in the end take away perks. It can make them worse overall. It also decreases their stats. Or you can fork out the money to get veteran recruits. So that it doesn't increase the veterancy of your unit, it just keeps it where it is. It doesn't reduce any of the stats or anything like that. It kind of just fortifies it with more veterans. It's the best option, but when you have no money, you're kind of stuck just taking in the raw recruits. So we'll move on to AI now. The AI in the game is, well, it's the same as most games. It's lackluster. Nobody has really gotten AI to a point where it's intelligent yet. It's just not. I've yet to play a game with good AI, especially when it comes to strategy games. Strategy games, I feel like, should have the best AI, but in a lot of cases have the absolute worst. It just kind of, you could be in the best defensive position, sitting in a tree line behind a river, and they will just keep charging you. Granted, that's what they're supposed to do, because you're supposed to be defending that position, but they don't really try and outflank. The only time they outflank is when they're spawned behind you, which does happen quite a bit on the higher difficulties. You'll be defending your line to the front, and then all of a sudden the road behind you will be marching up the road behind you will be a column of like 10,000 troops. It's like, alright, well, okay, that's how this game's gonna go, I guess. So that is kind of a gripe of mine with it, is the difficulty levels. Just like most games, it just throws more and more bodies at you in stupider and stupider ways. Like the hardest difficulty leaves you with very little money, so you have tiny armies, and it throws just massive amounts of forces at you. And it throws them at you from behind, the sides. It just spawns them wherever it feels like and just flings them at you over and over and over again. And enemy morale is through the roof on the higher difficulties. You have to wipe out a unit basically. There is no such thing as an enemy unit routing on the higher difficulty. It's unheard of. A unit doesn't rout. So yeah, it's kind of an issue of mine I have with most games, but this one in particular, the difficulty settings are kind of just bollocks. And we'll move on to the graphics now, I guess, after that. It's quite I would say cartoony kind of graphics. It's almost, I remember hearing something that it is hand-drawn, but I'm not entirely sure about that. I think the first one might have been entirely hand-drawn and I'm just confusing it. But it's that kind of hand-drawn-esque graphics. It's quite 2D, top-down. I like it. It's personally, I like that kind of style. And because it's that kind of style of graphics, basically anyone with a computer can play it. It's the specs needed to play the game are not, they're not incredibly high. Like, I was playing it on a laptop that I had, an old laptop that I had had for like 5 years, and it was running it reasonably well. A couple of little lag spikes, but not, especially when artillery's going off, because it does create particles and stuff from the cannon fire and the cannonballs hitting the ground. But other than that, it really wasn't terrible. It's pretty easy to run, so basically anyone with a laptop can run it. You know, just grab Steam, grab it on there. I think it's not on sale. I think it's €25 not on sale. And if you wait till a Steam sale, grab it for like €3. I mean, you know how it is with Steam sales. But yeah, it's a pretty cheap game. You definitely get value for your money. I'll tell you that much. I played it. I bought it. I didn't buy it on sale. I bought it full price at like €25 or €30. I can't remember which. And I easily played it for I think at the minute I have 80 hours in it. Like, where would 80 hours for €30? Like, very few games will give you that kind of value for money, especially if you're into strategy games. I would say it's a must-have. If you're a strategy game lover, it's up there with Total War. It's a must-have in any strategy player's library. I think that's it for this week. I believe I've covered everything. It was a little all over the place, but I'm trying to keep it more consolidated and, not shite. So I'll leave you there for this week. Thank you for listening.